Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday morning, and we are already talking about news and headline. So I woke up this morning to an article about AT&T CEO. His name is John Stankey, and some comments and some changes that he's putting into place for AT&T. And so he sent out a memo to his managers that essentially made it crystal clear that if the individuals are resisting returning to the office, then he said they have one of two choices. You can get on board or you can go work somewhere else, right? And so here we are back talking about return to work, policies, culture, and its impacts. And so there was a memo that he sent out, and he essentially said that the company is moving away from what he called an employment deal, right? And basically, he's saying this is where the relationship is based on benefits. Sorry, somebody's calling me. This is where the relationship is based on loyalty, tenure, benefits, right? And he's moving away from that to something that he's calling the market based culture. And he says that this culture is one that rewards capabilities, contribution, and commitment. And he also said there's going to be changes to things like compensation, pension, benefits, even people's work locations and the structure of the workplace. And all of this he is uplifting as part of his cultural shift. And, he tells people in this memo flat out, he says, if you don't like it, then there might be a disconnect between you and your professional choice. Now, I will give him this. He's clear, right? There's no ambiguity in his message. And I talk to managers a lot about being clear in their expectations. The employees for AT&T know exactly where he stands. He's been very clear about that. But here's the problem that I see with his approach. First, this kind of ultimatum, right? It can have a negative impact. And you usually risk alienating some of your best talent. Now, maybe you want to alienate some people, but you have to really be thoughtful about what it is that your organization needs. And maybe AT&T feels like no problem, if you leave, there'll be plenty other people who want this job and who's willing to commit to this, right? But that's a risk that employers take when they make these kind of ultimatums. Also, you have to think about, look at your high performers, right? Who are the people that are delivering results? And, I would even think about when you make this kind of ultimatum, you end up limiting their flexibility, their ability to take care of things that may be impacting them outside of the workplace. Even just having that flexibility to adjust your schedule, or to have a day where you work from home, or to adjust the time that you come in. I mean, those things are all things that really matter, because guess what? Even outside the 8 hours that we spend in the office, we are human beings. We have life, we have work, and we have things that are happening outside of this space. I also want to point out, when I read his comments, I really felt like he was assuming that being in the office automatically means there's going to be better performance, right? Which just simply is not true for every role. We have years and years of data now that shows that productivity does not live or die by physical presence in the cubicle. We know that. COVID was 5 years ago, right? And so since then, organizations that maybe were never remote, right, made lots of shifts and changes, and we know that work can still get done this way. And then the last thing that I want to say is, like, when employees are already dealing with several changes, you got pay structure changes, benefit changes, pension changes, layering on an inflexible return to work mandate on top of all of that is a fast track to change fatigue and burnout. So Stankey says that his goal is to really make the company sustainable and competitive in this fast-moving market. But the reality is that when you make decisions in a way that pushes out good talent, you're not strengthening your position. In actuality, you could be weakening it, right? So replacing top performers is expensive, it's disruptive, and it often results in a loss of institutional knowledge that can't always be easily replaced. So if you are a leader in your organization and you've been really thinking about this, what can you do? One of the things I would say is communicate, right? If you're going to make some kind of change like this, communicate your why, not just the what. If you're asking people to change, explain the business reasons in a way that connects to their reality and also shows how they fit into this bigger picture. I know it's 2025 and everybody's like, COVID was so long ago, we need to be back in person. And there's still a lot of companies that believe that. But I would also just say, you have to evaluate your company and what the needs are, but really consider offering some flexibility where you can. Hybrid models, staggered schedules, or even role-specific arrangements can make the business need still be successful without alienating your workforce. And then I would also suggest that you engage in some real dialogue with the employees who are going to be impacted. So instead of dismissing feedback or just seeing it as resistance, be curious. Ask questions, find out what's working, what's not, where is there room for compromise? Because in an organization, we don't do this work alone, right? You have people who you've hired who are part of your team who can really help you build and scale and continue to maintain and be best in class. But you have to partner with them, even though you're the boss. That's what I truly believe. And then last thing I want to add is just leading with trust, right? Trust your employees to deliver, whether they're in the office or whether they're remote, right? Trust them to do what they need to do. If you found that hasn't been successful, then there may be some people who may have to come back into place, but everyone shouldn't be penalized for a small few, okay? Remember that culture isn't built by proximity alone, right? So just because we're all in the same space doesn't mean that we're going to build this great culture. It's really built by respect, by connection, by trust, and shared goals. So being clear with your expectations is important. And that is the one thing that I can say that Stankey did right? He was clear. There's no room for confusion about what he wants. But clarity without empathy and inflexibility, call come through. Clarity without empathy and flexibility is truly a recipe for losing the very people that you need to compete in this market, right? Companies that want to thrive need to build cultures that adapt, not cultures that issue ultimatums. All right, so let me know what you think, right, about this kind of return to work. What about your culture? Are you guys in office? Are you hybrid? Is there some version in between? Are you remote? Let me know, because I think this is a conversation that is still ongoing and that we're still having even 5 years post-COVID. All right, until next time, drop it in the comments. Let me know what you think.